Welcome back to the FloTrack podcast. I'm Kevin. He's Lincoln. I only have one question for you, Lincoln, to begin this show. Have you checked out the email inbox lately at FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com? Have you seen the messages that we're getting?
I did a couple days ago. There was only one unread, so I checked that out, and it did appear that it was negative towards me, and I was scared. So I clicked it back to unread and quickly exited out of that inbox because there's just a lot of people that are, I guess, hating on my opinions, and so I like to keep myself insulated. So I got out of there quickly.
You're ensconced in your bubble right now?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I'd say it's a lot of Let's-Annette Gaudet stands in there, but they're not even really mentioning her name. They're more just going at you for attacking the integrity of world records.
Listen, today we're going to have more takes about the weakness of that record. And I guess it wasn't about the weakness of the record. It was more about my disbelief that Gaudet could have the record and be a fringe medal contender in the women's 5,000. I suppose that's just the world we live in. So maybe I could revise it a little bit, but I wanted to come out hot after that world record and say, this feels indicative of the times, less of the individual. But I can have my opinion. I'm allowed to have an opinion, as long as people still are allowing that in the track world. I felt like it was a safe space. You can have some takes, and it seems like this FloTrack podcast community is not wanting me to have a warm take. It's not even that hot of one. I mean, I just thought I like my world records, my world record holders to be very accomplished before they do it, and if not, I completely dismiss it. What's wrong with that? Is that too strong?
No, it's not. It's not. You're certainly entitled to express that opinion. I don't think you're alone in that opinion. Now, do you think your take? Because now that you have your take.
Yeah,
like any good take artist, you got to keep it. And then now you need to reverse engineer every new bit of information as evidence that your take is correct.
Correct.
Gordon and I touched on this yesterday, but Sifan Hassan in Hengelo ran 29:36 in the 10,000 in horrible weather.
Horrible.
They had the lights. She had a pacer, but it was not ideal circumstances at all. Does that further your argument? I'm going to guess you're going to say yes here, or does that contradict your argument in any way about the 5,000 meter world record, or does it have nothing to do with your opinion?
It furthers my argument. Here's why. We'll get into this. We'll get into this as I clear my throat. I'm having trouble. We'll get into this in a minute when I talk about my article that was just hammering the IAAF scoring tables. But the 14:06 that Gaudet ran, it was equivalent as far as the scoring tables go to a 29:37 10,000. Gaudet had perfect conditions in Valencia. Hassan, obviously, in Hengelo had horrible conditions. It was under 50 degrees and raining. And she still managed a 29:36. So it's a weak record. Not only that, but I think it shows that Sifan Hassan would be leaps and bounds under 14:06. And yes, there's something to be said about her just getting there first, Gaudet, but I don't see it. If that's the case, if you're able to run an equivalent mark in horrible conditions, I just don't see you as being deserving of holding the world record. Now, she's deserving in that she broke it, and she broke a record that had stood for 12 years. But I don't know. I just don't think we should be all struck by what Gaudet did and act like it is a revelation of her ability to be a gold medal threat, because I don't think she is, as long as Sifan Hassan and Hellen Obiri are there. I understand that's not what her world record said. It's not a promise of anything. If anything, it was just a sign that the game is changing in the distance events. And that's all I was trying to say. The game is changing. And I do think it is owed some to the technology, not the shoes, but I think the pacing lights certainly help. That's all I'm saying. And
what's your now I'm confused. What is your take? Is your take that the 5,000 meter record was weak and ergo it's easy for
I know I can see how
to
that
break it,
convoluted.
Or is the take just that
if
you're saying she's not the
a fluke record.
Right, but
owing itself to the technology.
that's the take, because
Yeah.
that's different than she's still not the best 5,000-meter runner in the world, because she's not the best 5,000-meter
Well,
runner
it's
in the world.
different and the
I said
same.
that.
It's different. Yeah. It could be different and the same. I think. I just think, like I said, I don't want a world record holder to not be the best in the distance. It demands that Safan Hassan get a 5,000-meter time trial set up immediately,
Mhm.
even though that's not going to happen. I don't think it feels wrong. It doesn't. It's a fluky record, and I don't want any world records to feel fluky, especially when it's coming off of with Tierney Tababa holding that for 12 years. To me, it just shows that the impact of this technology. I think when someone that is not the top of the top 5,000-meter runners beats it and beats it pretty soundly, I think we have a real case for this technology making for a different era, and that's fine. I just don't want to confuse her 5,000 world record with all of a sudden Gaudet is the best 5,000-meter runner in the world. Most people aren't going to make that mistake, but some will. And I don't know. I just wanted to remind people that Safan Hassan's still around. Gaudet still has not proven herself on the track. She's been good in cross country, and she's very, very young, as you pointed out. But she has a long way to go for me to be a believer, I should say.
Okay, let's get to your article here before I get even more confused as to what exactly you're arguing.
Yeah.
What did you ranked these? Are we getting an echo here? I don't know if we're getting an echo. I can hear my voice back again. Anyway,
Okay.
you ranked these world records. You ranked these world records from 2020. Now you left out. I don't know why you left this out. You left out the hour run marks and the 5K road mark from Cheptegei. As a completist, I really feel like you shortchanged us here. Did you just list these in order of IAAF or World Athletics table
Well, I
points? I
didn't
mean, come on.
intend to. It didn't. It
That's
did
a
perfectly.
that's a Gordon
align.
effort. That's a Gordon level
Yeah.
effort there in terms
It
of
did.
here's a list.
I was going to make a statement about that because, yes, it aligned as far as the point totals, but I do think the rankings reflect both an objective and subjective reality for how I had it. And then obviously objective in the sense that that's how the points went down. And then to your first thing, the scoring tables don't have a 5,000 or a 5K road thing. They don't have room for that because I think you see the scoring tables are from 2017, and the 5K was just added as a world record in the last couple years, and then they just completely ignore the hour run because I
Yeah, but
I
that's
have
where
no
you
idea.
step in. Just because they
I know,
don't
but I didn't
recognize
have
it.
any points. I thought about, okay, they got like a 30K. I could put that in, but I think Abdi whatever. I think he actually was Farah at that point, so it was too
Yeah.
much. It was too much for me, and I think we all know those records were going to be. I mean, not Cheptegei's 12:51, but since he was so well represented, I thought I can leave him out. He's got a couple other good marks in here, and then as far as Mo Farah and Safan Hassan, I think we both can recognize that was probably going to be at or near the bottom of the list. So I didn't feel the need to cover them in this article. So just
Okay.
6 world records: the pole vault, men's 10,000, 5,000, women's half, women's 5,000, and the women's triple jump from indoors. So those were the marks I looked at.
I forgot the women's indoor triple jump happened this year. I got to be honest when I was scrolling down. And I even forgot the women's half marathon. I did not remember that happening
Those were
either.
from February.
I know that. Yeah, and that was when Kosgei got beaten, and we talked about that a little bit in the lead up to the London Marathon, but it didn't jump out. I just thought, oh, okay, this is going to be Cheptegei, this is going to be Gaudet, and if you broaden this to what the best performance was, and you had to do a top 10, you'd introduce things like Ryan Krauser's 900 throws over 22 meters and Warholm's runs. There would be a deep list of performances to pull from, but you just went straight scoring tables. So is there a controversy here? Mondo number one. Okay.
Here's the controversy. Maybe we'll see.
You left
Mondo's
Gaudet off the list, even though she got the world record because it was a fraud.
Just triple
That's what you
asterisks.
did? Yeah.
The Mondo's 3 famous jumps from 2020. His obviously his 618 world record, his 617 the previous week, which was the world record, and then the 615 just this past month. Those 3 were higher than any other performance on this list per the scoring tables. Josh, and there's another revelation I'll tell you about in just a second about the 10,000. But his 3 jumps were worth 1317 points for the 618, 1314 for the 617, and 1308 for the 615. The next closest was Cheptegei's 10,000, which was 1306. So the IAAF,
that's over 39,000 points career.
It's so many points. And that's as like Gordon would point out, level. The most points before the 21st birthday. The fact that he has 3 performances ahead of Cheptegei's crowning achievement, which I think is the 10,000, although the 5,000 pretty good as well. I think that's his case for athlete of the year. If IAAF is going to, or World Athletics is going to choose based on comparing performances statistically. Now, if they choose the eye test way, the emotional way, and maybe the recent way, they'll go to Cheptegei, and also high profile of the event and things of that nature. They'll go Cheptegei. But there is a very stiff competition for athlete of the year, and that's crazy because we're also just ignoring Carson Warholm and Ryan Krauser, I think, because those guys didn't break world records.
Yeah,
and I think I found that there's a strong argument, and maybe this isn't a revelation, but there's a strong case, despite it just being in one event, Mondo Duplantis should be athlete of the year. Your response? You have 2 minutes.
I would go. Well, I'd listen to that argument. I would definitely listen to that argument. The thing with Mondo, the advantage that Mondo has, not just the 3 combined performances that are better than one of Cheptegei's, according to the scoring tables.
You sound so enthusiastic about that.
Well, I'm still getting this echo in my ear. I just don't know what's going on with this thing. I don't know if it's you or me or something like that. So it's just making this really hard to. It's like live TV. It's like, I can't focus. Let me try that again. I'll make this enthusiastic argument. I think you're right. I do think you're right. I think Mondo's it's the depth and breadth of his performances. He has not just those top 3, but you go even 5 deep, right? He was routinely vaulting over 6 meters. Look at the amount of competitions he did versus Cheptegei. Here's the thing, though. This conversation is not over. This debate is not over. You want to know why, Lincoln? Do you want to know why?
Because Cheptegei.
I'll tell you why.
Cheptegei's still running. Yeah.
Yep. You don't know this, but Cheptegei is still running. Did I just blow your mind? What if I told you, Lincoln, he has a race this weekend. He has a race this weekend at the World Half Marathon Championships. So I don't think it's completely over. I think it's clearly between those 2 gentlemen. I think if Cheptegei didn't get the world record in the 10,000 and ran something pedestrian like, I don't know, 26:18, then he would have been out and we would have focused solely on Mondo. I think we're going to have to see what happens at the World Half Marathon Championships because he doesn't have as many competitions as Mondo. Granted, all of his competitions have been spectacular, but he doesn't have as many. So I think it's fair to judge him on this. It's not like this is his 20th competition and you're going to ding him with a loss. He doesn't have that many competitions, so I think it's fair to expect him, if he wants to be athlete of the year, to win this World Half Marathon title. And if that's the case, then I think it swings back in his favor. But right now, I'll give the slight edge to Mr. Duplantis because of the reasons you said.
And I agree with you, and I should have noted that in the article. Clear air there, my bad. But I have to wonder though, do you get an edge for Mondo when he says, what else can I possibly do then? If I can't win athlete of the year with this performance, and obviously if Cheptegei wins, if he dominates in his half debut, he's been transcended his first few couple performances. He's only run twice, but he's broken 3 times. But he's broken a world record every single time out. That's pretty good. Mondo, though, has played the game. He's competed basically at every turn. he's been a dream for world athletics as far as in a year without the Olympics, with the Olympics being postponed, with world indoors being postponed. He's been a participant as about as much as possible. He even, was one of the founding members of the Garden Clash. The guy has been in class every single day. We're talking about 2 valedictorians. One, though, has a 93% attendance rate, and one is 100% and stays after class. I feel like even if Cheptegei does as expected and wins in whatever it's called, Gdynia, for the World Half Championships, you kind of have to honor the fact that Mondo Duplantis was kind of carrying the season for at least
hold on.
for the field events on his own for a while.
Hold on. Cheptegei, he can't do a Garden Clash 5,000. He can't run a 10,000 at his house. I don't know how big his house is, but I'm guessing it doesn't have a track behind it. The Diamond League doesn't have a lot of opportunities in 5,000 and 10,000 meter races. Yes. Were there more than he signed up for? Yes. He's only run a handful of times. But you could turn this on its head and say, well, how do you deny Joshua Cheptegei Athlete of the Year? The guy broke the 5,000, 10,000 records, ran a 12:51, and then if he goes on to win the World Half Championships, is a world champion. That's only 4 performances. I understand that's only 4 performances, but given the shortened year, that's perfect. That's perfect. You could not have asked for much more. So neither guy likes the fact that the other guy is competing the same year. If it happened in any other year, this would be a walk in the park. If they did these same things in 2019, they would have won Athlete of the Year by a mile. But they have just the unfortunate duty of competing in the same year and doing this at the same time. And then not to mention Krauser and Warholm, who basically did everything short of breaking a world record this year.
Well, let me introduce a possible outcome here that I'm sure everyone will love. What's the chances that they share Athlete of the Year, even if Cheptegei does win the World Half title? Feels like a very non-decision decision, but I almost think it is a possibility.
I think you got to pick. Track's about winning and losing. Got to pick. This is not the New York Times editorial endorsement for the primary. You have to choose one. You can't have a co-winner here. Let me blow your mind for a second, though. You ready? You ready to have your mind blown again for the second time?
Yes.
Women's Athlete of the Year. Good day.
Is it? I mean, she didn't win in Monaco. That's a knock. The thing is, the women's side is just so much weaker. I mean, there just hasn't been any dominant force on the level anywhere close of even the top 4 on the men's side. I know we've gone over this ad nauseum, but it certainly could be Gday. Maybe Kazgai too. Well, no, she's lost a couple times. I mean, Kazgai's run well every time she's gone out, unless you don't count her DFS reasons in the 1 hour run. But you're right. It probably should go to Gday based on that world record. But gosh, I feel like there's got to be somebody else that's Rojas hasn't jumped in forever. I mean, maybe you're right.
Gday's going to win it with 2 races and 1 win.
Incredible.
And she's going to win World Athlete of the Year. I think she should. Hassan still has a competition at World Half. Maybe they would give it to her. She's got the hour record, but she DNF'd in Monaco. She has the fast time that we talked about in the 10,000, number 4 all time. So she has obviously good performances to her name. You could make an argument for Mir. You can make an argument for Obiri or Faith Kipyegon. But if somebody runs 14:06 this year, that stands out. That one performance carries much more significance than
it does
a series of wins on the circuit. I think she's going to do it, and I think it's going to be the least amount of competitions by a World Athletics champion. I mean, probably the years when marathoners win, they run probably more than that because they usually get a half in there somewhere. But I think Gday, 1 win, 2 races. I think she's going to be the Women's Athlete of the Year.
Yeah, you have to look at it from a PR perspective. Which performance got the most attention, and it certainly has to be her her 14:06 world record. I know there's some recency bias there, but unless you're going to go back to, just really looking at indoors, and I don't think anyone necessarily separated themselves there. I agree. It has to be Gaudet, and I won't even put an asterisk on it. So there you go, all you Gaudet stands. I am willing to concede that she will be the athlete of the year.
Yeah, I don't look at it as a crass PR move because, there's integrity to these things, Lincoln, that apparently you don't subscribe to. I think we need to have a higher standard. I just think in a year that was so weird like this, like I'm looking at Obiri. Obiri only raced on the track 4 times. She won in Nairobi, she won in Monaco, she won in Doha, and then she got 11th in Stockholm. Like that's not a resume. And she ran 14:22 in the 5,000. That's great, but that's not a resume of someone who's going to be athlete of the year. Faith Kipyegon, of course, had a good season. She attempted to break the 1,000-meter record
like 17
times. Yeah, a lot of times, like an excessive amount of times. She went. Let's see. She went 157 in the 800. She ran 359 in the 1500 and then 229 a couple times in the 1,000. But she ran 6 times. She was 6 for 6. That's a good record. Is that enough to overcome a 14:07? I don't think so. Mir obviously raced a bunch as well too. I think it's just a weird quirk that Gaudet is gonna end up with this thing. And then on the men's side, I think it's still TBD depending on what happens at the World Half Marathon Championships. Because if you use the metric of, okay, like who owned the year, right? Who just that intangible element. Mondo definitely owned a lot of the competitions he was in, but Cheptegei towards the back half has really made up that gap.
And I think we're gonna find out a little bit which way World Athletics leans, like which way. I think you can't help but incorporate some bias when you talk about events that are so different, and yet the dominance and the records are, albeit in much different amounts of competition, are very similar. The records that they're breaking, the dominance that they're displaying, and the way the scoring tables reflect the quality of the performances. I realize Mondos are higher, but Cheptegei's are very, very high relative to distance performances of the past. And he's breaking records of Kenenisa Bekele, who was a superstar, obviously. So we're going to find out which way World Athletics, do they view, track performances better or field performances? We'll find out, I think.
Yeah, and I think that is going to factor in. I mean, you don't need to look any further than 2016 when somehow Usain Bolt won Athlete of the Year, despite barely running at all and putting up a 19.8 and a 19.78 at the Olympics, which you can never scoff at any double, but he was not the Athlete of the Year in 2016.
That was a Lifetime Achievement Award. That was the Lifetime Achievement Award. Yeah.
Yeah, but he had 5 other ones, right?
Yeah.
Like 08, yes, he earns it. 09, great. 11, okay, might be a bit of a, he false started and only got 1 gold, might be stretch it. 12, he's back in 12, that was pretty good. 2013 started to taper off, okay. 14, he never really ran, so they couldn't give it to him that year. 15, they gave it to Eaton. 15 goes Eaton, and then Bolt gets it in 16. I mean, what's wild is Kipchoge only has 2 of these, and he may end his career with only 2 of them.
Yeah. That's how I make my GOAT argument is, I gotta go through the Athlete of the Year. How many Athlete of the Year trophies did you get? That's definitely how we do this in track and field. We're giving a lot of weight to this Athlete of the Year trophy. When it comes out, it's announced, I'll be like, oh, okay, that's who won. Great. I think it's coming off like I care a lot, but I don't. It's just a weird
quirk. This year because you got the men's field that's just stacked and the women's field with this strange situation where the most impressive performance comes from someone who barely ran.
Yeah.
Do you want to read these emails now? You can mute if you want to not.
Before we get to that, I just wanted to get your opinion on this because second on my list, I mentioned that Mondo Duplantis's 3 jumps were better than anything else we saw this year. Number 2 on this list, as far as world records, was Cheptegei's 26:11 flat, which was worth 1,306 points. That's not on itself that big of a deal, except for when you consider that 1,306 points per the scoring tables, the highest, the greatest distance running world record ever. And that puts it, yes, above David Rudisha's 140.91. Now, I mentioned in the article, of course, you can still argue that Rudisha's is better just with the eye test and given the stage it was run on. But the equivalent to Cheptegei's 26 flat in the 800 would be 140.78. Is there any world in which you consider this 26:11 as a greater performance than Rudisha's 140.91 from the Olympic final in 2012?
Greater performance? No, because of the stage, as
Yeah.
you mentioned, and because of the pressure that he did it under. I think Cheptegei knocking 6 seconds off a legendary record over 10,000 meters obviously is just the pinnacle of sports. But as you've seen with Rudisha's mark, people are rarely running 141s,
Oh,
rarely
yeah.
running 141s. And now winning times in the Diamond League are now 142, 143. So it's held up at least for 8 years now. And all these records are viewed through the prism of history, right? If someone came the next year in 2013 at those world championships, ran 140.8, we'd be like, or even if Rudisha did it himself, he ran in some one-off weird meet and ran 140.8 and got the world record. I think we would think of that differently. But
Yeah.
to break a world record in an Olympic final just doesn't get any bigger than that. The difference in points here is so small. We're talking about what, 1306 versus 1302. That to me, these things are more for general guidelines, and I use
Yeah.
them to kind of figure out the range of where we're at. But when you get down to 4 points, I think it's incredibly close. But to me, I think the Rudisha mark is the better performance, and also because Cheptegei, a victim of his own success a little bit here, had already run the 5,000 record, and for a lot of us, it seemed like a formality that he'd be able to break the 10K world record.
Absolutely. Yeah. I guess I was just surprised that, and again, this is like whose line is it anyways? The points don't matter, right? But I was
That's around
surprised
the
that the
horn,
one.
but yeah.
Yeah. No, that's, yeah. I think it's whose line is it anyways? I guess
No,
a
you're,
sports reference more fitting. I was
that was a
surprised that
joke.
for Rudisha's 140.91 was not worth more points for as unimportant as it is. I would have thought, okay, that's the gold standard. That's as high as, that's going to be up there with Mondo Duplantis's at worst and higher, because I think we look at that and I guess it's because of the stage it was run on as
Yeah.
probably a top 5 track and field performance of all time. With Bolt's sprinting world records as well. But it is married to the fact of it was run in the Olympic final, and 7 other people or 6 other people PR'd or broke records, and it was just such a dominant performance without pacers, of which we're not used to record breaking performances being that way. But yeah, it does help me appreciate, and like you said, I think we did take a little bit for granted that Cheptegei would run this because he had already broke the record, but it does help me at least appreciate Cheptegei's run a little bit more, and the fact that he may be a guy that could possibly break 26 minutes one day. It's just would have been unthinkable previously. So yeah, just a little interesting tidbit there, to a different way to view this 26:11.
All right, let's look at these emails here. First up from Kevin. I listened to the podcast every day. I was very disappointed in the podcast that addressed the world record set last week. You should have been excited to discuss the history of the records and break down the races instead of discussing the reasons that I should not be excited about the records.
No, that's what I do. I try to
I can
downplay excitement. That's what
should I just keep going and read all the other ones?
That's what, like, when we have birthdays in my house, I deliberately say, no, today's a day not to celebrate because I don't like having any fun. So no, I'm just kidding.
We got another one. Here's one from Brad. Very interesting subject. Look at all the updates over the last 20 years. Tracks and Mondo surfaces, spikes, shoes, training, nutrition, pacers, pacing ice, etc. I'm with Chalimo's thoughts that these are not races. These are pace tempo runs, very fast tempo with decreased stress of any resemblance to racing, spacing, placing, changing pace, the need for a kick that any other runner will test you, etc. Does this minimize the result? I think that this is the argument. It seems that many people think a sub 2 hour marathon was just a joke or experiment. I think it's amazing that Iliad could perform that tempo in both attempts. I am not sure many or any others could do that, but those are not considered races. Well, neither are these two recent events. Then how do we note these results truly world records or asterisk the results? Do we only accept world records in races only? That being said, all of these planned attempted results are incredible regardless. It just surprises me that the Kipchoge marathon experiment is just that, but these track results are considered the real deal. I love the result being asterisk and the events to be continued. I'm more interested in seeing the times, in quotes, in true race with the best people all racing at the same time and the results of those type of races, gold, silver, and bronze. I've been watching and participating in track and field road running, cross country for 50 years and will continue to as long as I can with great excitement and interest. I also love these discussions about old records and athletes versus new ones. What would we do without the ability to be both amazed and critical at the same time? That is Brad. I like that last line. That is true, and that's what makes track fans track fans.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That encompasses everything that it is. You can be you're amazed in the moment, and then you can find a way to kind of dump on it later based on technology or I don't know, circumstance, if you're not a big fan of time trials. I would say that there's still races. When we look at time trials, they're races. They're just races against the clock. That's obvious. That's not some big revelation, but it is a race. You're under pressure to beat an opponent. It's just an opponent that's, there in history, not right next to you. It's different, but I guarantee you, Joshua Cheptegei was still feeling the pressure in the last lap as if he was racing someone. It just obviously was not the same. I'm glad we have different types of events in track and field. Obviously, head-to-head competition, I'm appreciative of it, and it's why you get into the sport, and it's the purity of it. But when you get a special athlete and they're able to challenge somebody else from the past, it adds a different wrinkle that no other sport has. I know it's corny, but if we think of the Jordan versus LeBron argument, it's not like we can have a Jordan versus LeBron competition that would objectively prove one is better. I guess you could say the amount of titles, but here we can actually do that, and there will still be some argument based on the technology, but at least you can have that. And so it's a race. It's just obviously a different kind of race.
On the same topic from George, I cannot agree more. He says, Kevin, I cannot agree more with you today on the podcast about the world records. The Pacers might be keeping track of those lights, but the runners certainly are not. To discredit the unbelievable efforts that both Gaudet and Cheptegei put in by themselves after the Pacers dropped from the race is very disrespectful. To your point, having the world record does not necessarily mean that you are the unbeatable runner in that event. We have seen it time and time again. The opposite is also true, and your example of Mo is a perfect example. Sorry to say, but Lincoln was way off on his arguments today. The lights are a good visual for the spectators to understand how the performance that they are watching compares to the best performance ever, similar to the swimming record line, which makes watching swimming so much more exciting. Keep up the good work. That is George.
So the argument here is that they've invested all this money for lights simply as a spectator element. I don't buy that. That doesn't strike me as something
both.
that is.
It's both.
Yeah, it's both. But I think it's a significant aid to the athlete, which is, I think we'll find out. I think this is going to be a take that ages well when they develop and they get a holograph, maybe in the men's 1500 for Timothy Chariot, we get a Hisham El Gurouj holograph that he can run next to and see. The developments for this wave light technology are not done. And we're going to find out. Somebody's going to tell the truth. I don't think the guy in his they're going to tell the truth and be like, oh yeah, the wave light technology is tremendously helpful. Because right now they're playing coy and being like, it's just for the fans. No, it's not. No, it helps the Pacers. And then if it helps the Pacers, it also helps the athletes running because both people are running. Stop. I don't want to discredit
I
it
know,
too
but it's
much.
just
It's a big factor.
I know, but again, my point is it's just a stand-in for an effective pacer. It's just optimizing pacing. That's what it's
Yeah.
doing. And that does that help? Absolutely. But it also helps if you have Bram Som pacing you in an 800 versus if you had Gordon Mack pacing you in an 800.
Ooh, well, that's tough.
So
Depends on what I'm trying to.
I didn't mean to use the I didn't mean to use his name in there. Actually, I did. But that's why I don't see it as just this black and white issue here. Is I think it's just helping something that already people get to take advantage of. And I do think the spectator thing matters. Like you may want to be tortured watching broadcasts on television, but I like it when the viewing experience is better. I like the
Mm,
fact that track, you could argue with all the talk of hashtag innovation that your guy, Lord Sebastian Coe, has talked about for years and years
mhm.
and years. And usually like innovation means like, let's get rid of the discus. And you're like, wait a minute, why is that going to get more people watching track? That's just getting rid of the
Yeah.
discus. Like this might be it. This might be the best thing. Not to say it's still miles away probably from other sports innovations, but this might
Yeah.
be the one thing that they've landed on. And they're doing it at a time when people are able to take advantage of the lights. But listen, there seems to be this notion, and I think you are in this group, that if we had the lights with the athletes 10 years ago, that they would have just broken Bekele's record because it magically zooms them to world records. The athletes are already there. Their
Mm,
athletes are already good. The lights are maybe pushing it over the top to a certain extent, but this is the same thing. And I know you don't want to talk about the shoes, but this is the same thing of people attributing everything to Kipchoge's shoes. It's like, no, the dude was a ridiculously fast marathoner and the greatest marathoner of all time before he even
mhm.
put those things on.
Yeah.
So the lights aren't going to make you into a world record holder when you're not close. Is it going to help you squeeze out that extra bit? Yeah, but if Cheptegei's breaking this thing by several seconds, if Gidey's smashing this thing by 5 seconds, 4 seconds, I think they were going to do it without the lights.
Mm. Yeah, that's a fair take. Um,
Here's what I think they should do. Here's what I think they should do to prove you wrong, because you're talking about the lights are going to like become have human like properties and turn into
yeah.
holograms and yeah.
Do it,
I think what
Howard.
they should do is next time they do this race, just to prove you wrong, next time, like, say there's a Hassan record attempt, right? Have the lights through 3K, and then when the rabbit steps off, someone shoots out all the bulbs individually, or they just turn off the switch. One or the other. Depends. They can choose how dramatic they want to be with it. And then
Yeah.
we'll see what happens to Hassan over the last 5 laps. We'll see what happens when she doesn't have the lights. And I think it's not going to surprise you that she's going to be fine and she's going to continue right on the same pace, and then she's probably going to kick hard. Do you think Hassan's going sub 14 next year? Serious question.
Yes. Yes. I
Okay.
think multiple people are going sub 14 next year. I think Obiri can do it as well. I think that's how much better they are than Gidey. And wow, am I just dumping on her time and
Jeez,
time again?
just let her leave her
Let
alone.
her have her moment for a bit. I know. I don't know. I just felt like, yeah, it just felt like the equivalent of like Jakob Ingebrigtsen breaking the 5,000 meter world record. Just didn't feel right to me. Yeah,
Okay,
we'll see.
that's fine.
Yeah, turn off. If you do it without the lights, that's a mic drop for sure.
Will
Do
you
it without the
stop?
light.
We stop talking about it then. At that point, can we
Yeah,
retire it?
we can retire the take. Absolutely. I'll take it out back and bury it.
But they'll come up with something else. It'll be it'll go back to the shoes then, or something else. Right?
Yeah.
That's my issue with this. Is it's always something else, and it's never, hey, as Brad was listing before, look at all these advantages that they have over previous decades that all add
Mm.
up to them being better. History didn't stop with Tierney Tababa and Kenenisa Bekele. People didn't quit running at that point. They didn't say, hey, let's not try to improve that at all. Let's just give up. Didn't happen.
It is
Um,
for a PR perspective for the sport. I think you have to be appreciative that the conversation is on legitimate advantages as opposed to what used to be the case, or maybe still is the case for some corners. Oh, a really good performance. Well,
yeah.
that person's Like, we're not talking about
Yeah.
that. And, that's because those athletes, Gaudet and Cheptegei, have earned that based on being very young and having very good careers up to this point. But you have to look at it. I think we have a tendency to look at it negatively and say, "Oh, this conversation, we just can never be happy about anything." Well, at least conversation's not about, I bet this athlete's doping. I mean, that's good, right? That doesn't mean they're not.
Guys,
But it's good.
Be happy with Lincoln, all right? He's picking something else to poo-poo the records about. All right, we got some other ones criticizing you, but I think people get the point. We got someone asking about when Shoe King is coming out, so stay tuned on that one.
100% abundantly clear. That was on April Fool's Day. That is a complete joke. I don't know. Every couple months we have somebody ask about that. No? Just keep it going? Okay, sorry. Never mind. It's coming out. No, they delayed production. When they had to get Capriati on the record after he left Nike, and so we had to wait until he quit, until he could come and get interviewed for it.
Someone asked if we have a Caitlin Tui update. We do not, unfortunately. Hope she's doing well. Aaron wants to know how to donate to the Coffee for Lincoln Fund if there's a road trip to Stillwater for the meet this weekend. Update on that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Gordon bailed on us. He's going to fly. So not only is there no road trip, there's no group going. It's just Gordon. So on one hand, you'll get coverage from the meet and you'll get insight that only Gordon could get, such as Mike Smith's hat color. The bad news is you won't get Lincoln, and you do not need to donate to his coffee fund.
Exactly. I'll be at home, nice and warm in Taylor, Texas, and not slumming it in Stillwater. How many times does Gordon get yelled at this weekend to put back on his mask? Over under 5 times. I think it's a fair.
And Gordon Dave Smith's going to be begging for the D team once he sees Gordon show up. What do you? I listened when you and Gordon were discussing this. Were you actually going to go? Because it was hard to tell in the tone of your voice.
No, I was never actually going to go. No, 2 kids. No, we got no, as you know,
please
we've got a
tell me how
we've got a 9-week-old baby. It's constant. Like, I can't just abandon ship for that. I mean, if no, I don't know, maybe, but I just did the prospect of bringing that up to my wife. Hey, I'm going to go on a trip that that we didn't
I was ready
know.
For it.
Yeah. Fortunately, there's a budget for our company, and you got the it's better Gordon goes anyways. He represents the company so well, and he'll get out there and get all the content. He'll get like 17,000 pieces of additional content. It's just it's good. I like the angle he brings to journalism. I just enjoy it so much. So we'll see what he comes up with, and I'm always fascinated. He won't be afraid to get within 6 feet of people. He'll just get up right in there. I would have tried to respect social distancing. He'll get right up in there and get all the scoops. So he needs to be the guy that goes. It's good.
I think I still have some of his equipment from indoors because we left in such a hurry that we just threw stuff in the bag and then flew home and haven't seen him in person since. Yeah, I think I have some of his stuff. I wanted to go. I would have definitely gone. I wouldn't mind getting out of town for a little bit, even if it's just for 24 hours. I talked myself into making the drive. And
not a bad drive, not horrible.
No. Yeah. Just sometimes when you haven't had a road trip in a while, it sounds good. You haven't even really been in your car for a while. It sounds appealing. Yeah. And if BYU and NAU run A teams, there's a lot of top flight runners there between the men and the women. So I was excited. So I'll have to live, vicariously through Gordon now, which is tough.
Always hard.
I don't know when the next beat is, but we'll see. One more here. This is from Brandon, who is critical of Lincoln, but for a different reason. Stuart McSwain. How is a 330 guy not a medal threat? The bronze medal in Doha, Lewandowski is a 331 guy. Saying McSwain isn't a threat for a medal is crazy. His best shot for a medal in Tokyo is 1500. Also, Chariot said on Instagram, quote, a small hamstring niggle prevented me from firing on all cylinders, end quote. So I would not say this 800 is a great indication of his ability in the
Oh, wow,
event.
this is an old email. This is an old email dumping on me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. From the
yeah. So getting to the Lewandowski medal, that's a once every couple years fluke. I mean, that just happens. He.
Oh,
I don't know.
come on.
Yeah,
What's Centro's? Come on. What's Centro's status in this? Come on.
No. Like I said, I think we said at the time you asked, is Centro a medal threat, and I said no. That ship has sailed.
No, but in 16, you wouldn't have given him a chance either.
Yeah,
Would you?
that's fine. I'd have to go back and look at the races. I mean, as a previous medalist, I probably would have looked at his record in 2011 and 2013 and realized he won the World Indoor Gold. And obviously, the World Indoor Gold is not compared to the Olympic title.
Really?
But I would have said he's running well this year, and previous history. Listen, McSwain, very, very good. Okay, I'm willing to push him into the medal threat category. However, if he gets a medal in Tokyo, I will be surprised. I genuinely, if he is ahead of 3 of Chariot, of Ingebrigtsen, of McLuffy, I will be surprised. Genuinely.
Here's some bronze medalists throughout the years. Johan Kranji of South Africa
great.
in 2013.
All-time legend.
Okay, good. 2017, you know who got bronze in 2017 in the 1500?
No, I forgot.
Philip Ingebrigtsen.
Legend.
Ingebrigtsen is that
Norwegian
much better
star.
than McSwain. Then you have Lewandowski. You go to the Olympic side of things. I mean, Nick Willis got bronze in Rio. So if you want to throw out the Centro result, you could look just at Nick Willis, Menzano and Ngiter in silver and bronze in 12. Mehdi Bala got a bronze in 08. That is the 1500. The 1500 is all about random people getting in.
The random dude bronze. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's not even that random. This guy's legitimately good. I mean, he runs 728 for 3,000. I'm with Brendan here. I think you're crazy on this. I don't know why you get cornered into these like really weird takes. I don't understand it.
Yeah, Stuart McSwain. He did take a loss over the weekend to Yomif Kajelka. You lose to Kajelka, you can't get 1,500 bronze. I think somebody said that somewhere, and I think that's proven out. No, I understand. I have some takes that aren't good. That's just kind of my style. So you need that person. You need the person who has horrendous takes every once in a while to balance out the chaos. A question I was going to ask, and I don't imagine you have, but Oscar Pistorius documentary. I know I'm the only ESPN Plus subscriber probably on this podcast, but I've been watching that recently. It's a little bit all over the place, but I would recommend it not only just for the if you are on ESPN Plus, not only just for all of. I didn't realize how much attention it got in South Africa. I obviously knew he was a big deal in South Africa, but it was an absolute zoo as far as the media coverage in South Africa, and I didn't realize to that scale how big it was. And then 2, they have so much footage from his early days as a Paralympian, dating back to the 2004 Paralympics. It's a worthy watch just for that alone, and then also to just really going in depth on the case involving, unfortunately, the killing of his girlfriend. So it's a pretty well done documentary. I was skeptical at first, but the family, I think, provided a lot of footage, and I think it's a balanced. It's a little bit, I think, on the side of Pistorius, a little sympathetic, I would say. So if you come down hard on him, maybe you won't like it. But it's a good piece, which I think I was a little surprised, pleasantly surprised how well done it was. So check it out if you haven't already. And Kevin, it may be worth me sharing my login for you to check it out if you haven't.
That'd be deeply appreciated, Lincoln. I've been watching the Nexium doc on HBO, which you're into cults, so I'm sure you've seen that. Or you're into some documentaries about cults.
I've heard that some people are critical. They say as far as cults go, it's kind of a boring cult. So, I like my cults to be really interesting, and I don't want a boring cult.
Is that really? Is that really?
Somebody has that take. Somebody has that take. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's still 2 more episodes of it. It drags on a lot and goes in a lot of directions that I think's unnecessary. But I know you love those HBO documentaries too about high profile weird situations. So you're
I'm
waiting
big.
for the next season of Ozark. Let's be honest. You're just waiting for
Yes, of
Ozark to come back, right?
course, of course. And yeah, I've had to drop HBO since because I'm basically subscribed to everything else. So I finally broke down and signed up for the Athletic. It is officially. I'm like the stereotypical sports fan. I have like I've $6 here, $6 there, going out per month. So it's I gotta button that up. It's getting ugly.
All right. Email the show, FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com. Please do it. Gordon and Lincoln are on tomorrow. There's not a ton to talk about because there's only so many times you can preview the Oklahoma State cross country meet that's coming up. Lincoln and I on Friday, Lincoln and I will probably dive into World Half. So maybe tomorrow can be an Ask Gordon Anything, an AGA.
Yeah.
So email in all your questions about Gordon to FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com. Lincoln has been a good sport today. They haven't been questions at Lincoln so much as they have been shots at his integrity. So let's just pivot to regular old questions about Gordon Mack. He's been covering the sport for 6 years now, I think, at Flow Sports. 2014 is when he started. He doesn't believe sunscreen works. He's a 76ers fan. He's got a lot of interesting things to share. So they can be short questions. Send them in, FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com. When I listen tomorrow, Lincoln, I want to hear a segment of the show. Doesn't need to be the whole show. A segment of the show where we do a Ask Gordon Anything. Are you in?
I'm in, and let me help. Not breaking news on my own, but let me just announce somebody else's breaking news. In the last seconds of this podcast, Savannah Hassan out of the World Half Marathon Championships. So there you go.
You know, when you said there's some breaking news, when you said there's some breaking news coming in, I was just like, oh man, this could go a lot of different ways. And I didn't see that one coming. I did not see that one coming. But I think that so now I have some breaking news from me. I have officially called Women's Athlete of the Year for Latensabet Gidey because 99% of the precincts were in. There was a chance if Hassan dropped an absolute hammer at the World Half Championships that would have elevated her. I now, after looking at advanced statistical analysis on all athletes in the World Athletics database, I'm prepared to call World Athletics Athlete of the Year for the women, Latensabet Gidey. Congratulations.
There you go. Couldn't agree more.
All right, that's it. FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com. Thanks to our producer, Elan. We will talk to you guys next time.